On Two Wheels this week, a look at a second-hand VFR 750. Jeff meets the guys who look after the brakes and suspension on Honda's SP1. Claire spends the day with ex-racer Charlie Williams, and Wayne kits out the VFR with some touring accessories. Also, some bikers tell us about their dream machines, and Jeff has another top tip.
This is the life, isn't it? Touring the countryside on your favourite mode of transport. British racing green, high-speed travel? Nah, I don't think so really. You'd get very bored on one of them. What you really need is one of these. Not quite British racing green, but it's close enough. Certainly high-speed, supreme comfort, and go a long, long way for a long, long time on a Honda VFR 750. Now the VFR 750 has been around since 1986, and in fact you could still buy a brand new one up till 1998 when they changed to the new VFR 800 model. So 12 years in production, must have been doing something right. Well, yeah, absolutely. It's a brilliant bike, often called the best bike in the world and sometimes called the most comfortable bike in the world. It really is superbly comfortable for a long journey. Big V4 motor, lovely silky smooth power. Has a nice kind of whirring, whining sound as you wind it on. It's really, really very nice. Look at that for a seat. Dual seat. Jump off a sports bike, jump off an R1 or a Fireblade and get straight onto this and you feel like you're just sinking into an armchair. Really is very, very comfortable. Down at the back end, this one has the single-sided swing arm, which they changed as we moved into the 90s. Honda actually call it the Pro Arm. It's just their name for it really, but it makes it very easy to get the back wheel off. Because all you need to do is unbolt the exhaust. Down here, there's a little arrangement like a ball and socket. That then moves to the side. The back wheel comes off. Dead simple, really very, very quick to do. Nice and easy. Look at this for a dashboard here. Everything you could possibly wish for on a dashboard. A fuel gauge. I've always said every bike should have a fuel gauge. Not just a fuel gauge, but a fuel warning lamp as well. Clock up there, all the usual warning lamps, trip meter, everything you could require. This one's actually got heated grips on it here, which is superb when there's a bit of a chill in the air. Really is a fantastic touring machine. So why should you buy an old VFR 750 when there's now a new VFR 800 on the market? Well, the big reason, the main reason, is money. A 750 like this is a P-registered example showing just 12,000 miles on its clock. At a dealer, this will cost you around about £4,500. If you go for the new 800, that'll cost you over £8,000, so you can save yourself a few bob. What better reason do you need? What's the 800 got that this hasn't got? Well, a couple of main things really. Obviously a few more cc's, but the 800 is fuel injected, so throttle response is a little bit better. Although I have to say on this one, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. The 800 also has Honda's CBS, combined braking system, which a lot of people don't like. Don't know why they don't like it really. I think it's fear of the unknown. All it means is that when you press the front brake, it brakes the back as well, and when you press the rear brake lever, it brakes the front as well. It means the bike reacts a little bit differently to the way that we've all been brought up over the years. It doesn't dive quite as much at the back, at the front, and you can't lock the back up and skid it around. Nothing at all wrong with it. And I have to say, there's nothing at all wrong with the Nissan calipers on this. It stops and it goes perfectly well. But perhaps you think it's a bit boring. It's a bit of a plain Jane, isn't it, the VFR 750? Nothing very exciting, no fancy graphics, no swoopy pointed bodywork or anything like that. All very, very functional. Well, if you do think it's a bit boring, you could turn it into a single-seat sports bike by doing this. Take the seat off there like that, and you can get rid of these grab rails. You don't need them if you're on a single-seat mode, but these are good grab rails. As grab rails go, these are good, because so many bikes have a little grab rail on the back with a gap of about that much to get your fingers under, or for your pillion to get the fingers under. And if you've got thick gloves on, you can't grab hold of them, but these lovely big chunky things, plenty to get a hold of there. But what you can do, unbolt them like I have done with this one, and you can just lose them under the seat. Tuck them in under the seat. Seat goes back on. There's a cowling that fits on there through these little things here, and there you go. You've got your single seat sports bike. The VFR 750 and of course the new 800 always seems to be put in the group sports tourer. Well, it's certainly got the ability to tour, it's got the comfort, it's got the performance, everything you need really. But as it stands like this, it's absolutely no use because there's nowhere to put anything. There's no panniers, there's no pockets in the fairing, there's no compartments, there's absolutely nothing. So I'll go and see my little friend Wayne to see if he can sort me out with some panniers and some bits and pieces for that touring holiday, and you can join us later.
If you're a keen race fan, you're going to have seen lots of technicians in the pits, milling around when the bike comes in, setting it up and all the rest of it. One of them will be a suspension man, another man could be a brake man. You could also get your tyre man, oils, the whole shebang. Well, what we're going to do today is have a word with a couple of these people. One about brakes and the other one about suspension, and just see what goes into setting up a race bike. Now, first up is suspension, especially as I've got one in my hand. Now, there's loads of companies in this, Marsaki, Paoli, White Power, all the rest of them. Happen to be at an Olin's wagon, as you can see. And the man in here is Andy White. Excuse me, Mr. White, can I come in? Andy, can you explain what your function is on a day like today when we've got a race team?
On a day like today, we're here as just to offer technical support for any Olin product.
Right.
Just to offer advice or to change valving, springs, whatever they need to get them the best setup.
And how do you get that feedback? Have you got telemetry on the bikes? Have you?
Not on these at the moment, but they will be fitted with telemetry.
Right.
Most of the top superbike teams have got telemetry on them.
So what are you getting your feedback on? This is from the riders, is it saying it's pattering a
You
bit or
listen to
whatever?
the rider, and then the computer just gives you a feedback. It's just another tool, telemetry. It's not the ultimate answer.
Right. So when you're first setting it up, do you take the weight of a rider and the type of bike it is? And you've got lots of charts, have you? You say, well, that's a start point anyway.
Yeah, we have a base setting. We take the rider's weight into consideration, tyres, weather conditions, tarmac temperature.
The whole thing?
The whole thing.
And do you carry all the necessary bits here?
Yeah.
These get a bit heavy after a while, don't they? But you carry all the... I see you got your tool chest there. What have you got in there?
Boxes and boxes of shims in order to revalve, give us better settings, lighter or harder damping. Obviously a lot of special tools which are needed for specialist equipment. And then just boxes and boxes of spare parts.
So really, you're never stuck for any components here. The whole idea, this is a full service.
We could pretty much rebuild a shop, you know, any Olin product, or we could more or less make a new one if we needed to, if we were desperate.
And I noticed you got a machine over there. That's for calibrating springs, is it?
This is in order to give us a calibration as to newtons per millimetre to the strength of the spring. And obviously at this level of racing, we might go down quarter of a newton, you know. Yeah.
It's that fine then, is it? You really do. You do tune the suspension.
Absolutely.
Literally. That's the proper word for it.
Literally tune it.
Now, Pete, you're the man from AP Racing. So, what's your function on a day like today?
We just basically come to check to make sure everything's running correctly and everything's been set up right.
So, do you get any particular problems? I mean, the calipers that have been proved in race use before, and
all the equipment that's being used has been proven out in bikes in the past. Lots of people have been using this for several years.
Yeah. If you were going to get a problem, what would you get?
The only problem you'd really get is to make sure that the caliper's running centrally in the disc.
Yeah.
These people manufacture their own mounting brackets, so as such we just come really to check to make sure they haven't got them all over the one side on the disc.
All right. Yeah. So it's absolutely spot on. Now, this is Sean Emmett's bike, and he's got a thumb-operated rear brake. How special is that?
It's quite a specialised piece, really. Not many riders actually use it. There's only like a few that will actually use the product.
Yeah.
They actually use it so they can do away with the foot-operated rear brake, and it allows them to actually control the rear wheel with the hand as opposed to with the foot.
Yeah. So how special is that? I mean, is it a standard component that you modified, or do you make an actual brand new cylinder for it?
It's a unit that is actually supplied with the unit itself is the same.
Yeah.
The lever comes a predetermined length. Teams actually cut the lever and mould it to suit the actual rider.
Right. And so the rider himself, can he adjust the brake balance and all that from the hand controls?
On the AP racing setup, on the master cylinder, it's a variable ratio, so they can actually adjust the ratio of the master cylinder to give them, it alters the actual bore, not in theory, it alters the bore size,
yeah,
which gives them a bit more control of how they can operate the brake.
So they don't need you at all then?
Only when they get a problem.
How many times have you been in a bike showroom and thought, oh, if I just won the lottery, look at that thing sat there in the corner? Well, let's assume that money is no problem. Money, no object. Which bike would you really like to own?
If money was no object, I'd have either, well, it'd have to be an SP1, the new VTR, or a 996 Foggy replica. All depend on road test, what I liked. VT1, it's a beautiful looking bike, it's a new World Superbike. It sounds like it's doing the business. The 996, it's the Ducati, it's red, it's Foggy replica, sounds awesome, rides awesome. I can't wait to have a ride of one.
If money was no object, and I could buy any bike, I'd be looking at an MV F4. The reason being is you don't see many about.
I own a CBR 1000 at the minute, and I'm quite chuffed with it. I got it for a good bargain. But I think if money was no object, the ideal bike I'd go for would be the Honda Blackbird. Good bike. I like the new colours they brought it out in, and it's basically the same as what I've got. But you know, it's a good touring machine. I'm planning on doing a bit of touring this next few years, so ideal.
If money was no object, I think the bike I would probably have would be the Benelli Tornado. It's a name from the past. I love the colour scheme. I love the way it looks, and it's really exclusive. And although I like R1s and Ducatis, I still think that would be a better bike. Just looks the business.
If money was no object, I'd go for the new Honda SP1. It's just a brilliant bike. I mean, I've never ridden one, but the reports I've read about it, but to read all the magazines, I'd pick that over any other road bike at the moment. I just think it's great.
And coming up after the break, Claire meets ex-racer Charlie Williams, Wayne kits out the VFR, and Jeff has another top tip.
This impressively stashed cabinet belongs to one of the modern-day icons of the racing world. Obviously a big influence of the TT inside here. He is today everything but bikes. He is, of course, Charlie Williams. Charlie, fantastic racing career. About 15 years, was it?
Yeah, just about, yeah.
Obviously a successful one. You must have some amazing memories of that time.
Yeah, a long career and a long time ago, and it's difficult to remember. There are lots of special moments, just which were the most special ones is pretty difficult. But probably my first TT, which was 1972, my first TT proper when I did 6 races, and finished in the top 6 in 5 of those races, which was pretty impressive at the time.
Now, you started off on 250 Yamahas, was it? And then you progressed onto the Hondas. Take us through that period.
Well, I started with the Yamaha 250 with a friend of mine, a local guy by the name of Alan Steele, who was responsible for me starting racing, really, and he was a big influence for me in the years I was racing. But then I went to race for Honda, and that was to do with Bill Smith.
Yes.
Bill couldn't race a particular race for Honda. I'd won my first TT.
Hey, you're being polite there. He fell out with them. No change there. That was very, very diplomatic, but that was true.
No,
he did fall out
but
with them.
this wasn't the reason. I mean, he'd fallen out with Honda a long time after that. At this time, he was very much with Honda. And John Williams and Bill were supposed to be racing in a race in Belgium, and Bill crashed in Ireland, I think it was, somewhere, and injured himself. So Honda said to John, look, can you sort of recommend a replacement? So he said, yeah, Charlie Williams. I'd beaten John at the TT. I'd won my first TT that year and beaten John. We'd had quite a good scrap in the 250 race. So we went off to Belgium and we won.
I mean, obviously riding is, and racing has changed quite dramatically over the course of the years. Do you think that's for the better, or?
I think it's got a lot safer.
Do you?
And that's definitely for the better. Oh yeah, circuits are so much safer now. Equipment's better. There were too many people getting killed when I was racing, and probably more before that.
Now, obviously, the TT is a favourite of yours, but do you have any particular preference as road racing or circuits?
I very much like road circuits. I love the TT and still do. You know, I will not say anything bad about the TT. Sometimes I've thought about it long and hard. Again, I've lost a lot of friends at the TT. But to actually race around the TT circuit is such a thrill. And even last week I did an interview with Agostini, and even he said that. Even he, after all these years, he turned his back on the TT in 1972 because his friend was killed there, but he still says that it's the most exciting race he's ever done in his life, you know, so that bears testament for the TT.
Well, what are your kind of memories of racing against the likes of Agostini?
Well, with Agostini, my first Grand Prix was in Aston in 1974 and I finished 5th, a race that Agostini won. But my first recollection of Agostini was 71 when I was riding a production bike at the TT, and he passed me coming off the mountain during an early morning practice. Totally unexpectedly, the bike I was riding was so quiet. The 500 MV four exhaust pipes, open exhaust pipes.
Blew you away.
Oh, I almost jumped over the hedge clare.
The old ticker's going a little bit there,
really,
wasn't it?
I was only a young kid, and I mean, I was quite pleased the fact it was Agostini, you know. So I go there, but it was tremendous, yeah. And he was a brilliant rider.
Absolutely, it goes without saying. Now, if we kind of move a little bit backwards, how did you start in racing? Because it wasn't a kind of family thing or anything.
Not at all.
What kind of enticed you and inspired you to get into it?
We're in my house in Kershaw now, and next door was the house where I was born, and my father wasn't interested in motorcycles at all. He was a football fanatic. Alton Park's 5 miles up the road. I used to go and watch racing in Alton Park, and you know, sometimes you get something in your mind and you just want to do it, and I just wanted to go motorbike racing. There was nothing. I was going to go motorbike racing, and I knew I was. I didn't know how the heck I was going to do it at the time, but I was going to do it and I did it.
Obviously, it's a passion that stayed with you and progressed into retail for so many of your kind of generation. It seems to be a natural progression, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think when you've made a bit of a name for yourself in whatever sport it might be or whatever field it might be, and it makes sense really to use that name, and so that's when
It's never been a case of hanging up your boots and just kind of leaving the whole thing.
I don't think I'd know what else to do, to be honest. I've got other interests, but I don't think I'd know exactly how to make a living if it wasn't something to do with motorbikes. They've been in my blood really ever since those early days at Alton Park, going watching the likes of Derek Minter and John Cooper and people like that, and your dad.
Well, Charlie, thank you very much indeed for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So, as Paul did enlighten you, this bike is a serious good sports tourer, but the problem is you can't carry even a toothbrush because there's no luggage space at all. So we might as well start with the luggage. Now, these tank bags that they're doing nowadays are far too big for little people like me. You can't even reach the handlebars. But I jest, because here, first of all, we have a pannier, or that is a case which can indeed be a pannier, or, with the right framework, be a top box. And people like this, which is the Jivvy box, and Kappa and Nonfango, who are the many that do this type of luggage, you can buy a full framework to go on the bike and then put your panniers on for around £300 and upwards. But I can assure you, you can top £600 and £700 by having the big cases and all the colour coordinated colours. So they can look the business. Bear in mind that if you do swap your bike and you change colour, the panniers are then, well, they go with the old bike, and you have to invest in a new set. So consider a plain coloured set, maybe plain black or grey like the one I've just shown you. That will keep your costs down for the future. This bike has got a hugger on it, and there's a hugger. Now, if you're going touring and therefore using the bike in all types of weather, the last thing you want is all the muck going onto your linkages and onto your shock absorber on the rear wheel. So a hugger's available. These will cost you around 50 quid for the plastic ones, but you can reach up to 130, 140 pound if you go for fancy carbon fibre. And of course, the plastic one serves the same purpose. At the front of the bike, you might want to then stick on something like this, which is called an extender fender, which will cost you £14.50, sticks on the front mudguard, and that stops all the rubbish firing on to the underneath of the bike at the front. Keeps your bike a bit cleaner. The tank bag. There's loads of different types of soft luggage. Tank bag like this, tank bags which you then can put onto the back of the bike and they can become a seat bag. But this particular one is a magnetic bag. It's made by Weiss. It'll cost you £60. It expands high so you can put an awful lot of stuff in it, or you can drop it nice and low so it doesn't get in the way of your handlebars. And just to finish off on the front for your touring uses, this, which is a flip-up type screen. And this will flip the air right over the top of your helmet and visor. So if you are going on a long journey, it just takes the load off you, makes your journey a little bit more comfortable. This bike has got fitted to it some heated grips. Paul mentioned that in his little piece. They are great for in the winter, and they will cost you anything between £40 and £65 depending on the make. And it's also got fitted to this bike some Goodrich brake hoses, which I think really is not a bad investment on any bike that happens to be more than 3 or 4 years old, because the bike pipes, they do perish and they do cause a little bit of flex, making your braking a little less sensitive. And a set of Goodrich hoses are pretty good, and they don't cost an awful lot of money, usually around £15 a line, and you might have 3 or 4 lines depending on the configuration of your brakes. So there's a few things that you can stick on your VFR 750 and make it into the ultimate tourer.
Now you want to inspect your front wheel, or rather your front tyre, or perhaps the brake discs are making a funny noise. How do you get that front wheel off the ground? If you've got a centre stand, you're halfway there. But here's a little trick called the bum lift, or that's what I've called it. And Paul Johnston, my colleague, said a policeman showed him this one, but I'm not too sure. If a policeman bent down, what would you think? Anyway, this is what you do. If you've got a fairing, you'll need that. Get your backside under the fairing and just lift up like that. And there we have the front wheel off the ground. At least you can check it there, see if you've got any stones in there, check for general wear. Can't keep this position for long, mind you, but it does the trick.
On Two Wheels next week, a 600cc machine for £3,500. We look at Honda's Hornet and Yamaha's Phaser. There'll be more biker chat, and Jeff will have another top tip.